to my channel, Dolores Jones, the Comeback Coach. You're either with me on Facebook or YouTube. Either way, you are in store for a very, I'm going to say, tasty, uh, thought-provoking conversation. The title is, I want to be like her, trash, or I want to be a certified freak. Okay, Dolores, what are you talking about? So recently, and before I do that, let me introduce my panel. All right. So to join me for this heated conversation that is going to take you to another level, what have you, this is not about judgment. This is truly about insight and understanding what's our role or responsibility when it comes to our daughters and our reputation and our image as African-American people. I mean, I don't know. I got some questions for y'all. But C.D. Madden Sr. is with us. He has a master's of education, but he has a lot of lifelong experiences and some different perspectives and lenses. So he'll bring his perspective. And then my girl here, Yolanda Taylor. Let me tell you, she's one of the women that I've admired for a very, very long time. And you happen to be, up on the hip hop culture, and you are a mother, did you say, of 4 girls?
4 girls.
Or 5 girls? 4 girls. And I think, CD, you have a daughter.
Yeah, two daughters, 1 son.
Okay. And so the whole thing with this here is I want to make sure that we have a well-rounded panel to kind of look at some things that most of us can't see. But anyway, without any further ado. So Megan Thee Stallion, for some people, you've heard of her, right? Okay, people. Okay. Megan Thee Stallion did a performance at the Essence Festival. And for any of us that's over 50 or in the 40s, we know the Essence Festival really we think about excellence in whatever genre of music you're in or whatever business. However, recently, Essence Festival, the content creators decided to invite Megan Thee Stallion. And Megan Thee Stallion, as you know, is not necessarily a Sunday school teacher. Is that the best way to put that? Okay. She has her messages, and her messages can be quite raw. And in fact, I took some time to watch her performance, and it was very uncomfortable for me. Now, she did speak her truth, but a lot of her lyrics, and let's just say, whew, all right, that's just something else. But anyway, and then we think about Beyoncé. And we think about these images that are out here and who our daughters want to be like. Now, for the sake of the conversation, everyone knows Dolly Parton, right? Back in the 60s, Dolly Parton came on the scene. And Dolly Parton is still out there. But when you think of Dolly Parton, you think of big blonde hair, you think of makeup, you think of a fully clothed woman. She got big bosom. I don't know if it was a breast job or what have you. She's very flamboyant. But she shared recently in an interview that when she was deciding on her image, she wanted to be beautiful. And there was this woman in the community, a streetwalker. And she saw this woman, and this woman was beautiful. And she said, I want to be like her. I want my hair to be pretty. I want to wear makeup. And people said to her, she is the town tramp. But because, in her mind, all she saw was the woman's beauty, right? Just the beauty. I'm going to mute you for a second. Somebody, I can hear you typing, and it's coming across. Okay. So she wanted to be like the town tramp. But in her mind, that was not a bad thing. Because she said the woman's beautiful. She can be seen. And they told her she's not going to amount to anything. She's going to be trash. And so Dolly Parton is quoted as saying, let me find my, because I don't want to misquote no Dolly Parton, honey. Don't come for me. Hold on, y'all. Hold on. Dolly Parton said, oh, she ain't nothing but trash. She said, well, that's what I'm going to be when I grow up. Trash. That's what Dolly Parton said. She said, but I like to think I'm a little more than that. Trash. So this type of idolization or wanting to be like someone you see is not brand new. It's just for us here in 2023 in the Black community, it looks a lot differently. CD Madden and Yolanda Taylor, what were your thoughts when you heard what I said, that what Dolly Parton said? Any thoughts from what I shared with you that come to mind? Go ahead, Yolanda. I can't hear you. Yolanda?
I muted my mic.
Okay, there you go. What are your thoughts? Is that you?
It's when you talk. I can hear the feedback when you're talking. Okay, so I would say I think that has a lot to do with imagery or vanity being the forefront of a lot of, especially being a young girl. Beauty is very important to us. I mean, even as female, for sure. I can't speak for a male, but beauty is a big thing for us. I mean, beauty is a gift from God. You know, everybody doesn't get it. You all get your portion, you know, so it means a lot to someone to be beautiful. And so I think her admiring the woman was not a problem because she was really coming from an innocent place. I think the woman's occupation wasn't her concern. I think she admired the woman for her beauty, which most of us do when we first encounter someone. We judge. A lot of times you can say one person, because of the way they look, compared to another person, would get better treatment just because of their beauty. Beauty really does open a lot of doors and gateways for, you know, we being so flawed as humans. It's a natural default for us, you know. So I could understand how she was molded even at a young age to think that beauty was the thing to be. Beautiful was the thing to be. However, the lady's, like I said before, her occupation was not in play when she was young and talking about how beautiful the woman was. She just wanted the beauty of the woman. So when they actually shine light on, oh, she's quote unquote trash, I still don't think that deterred her because she still didn't see her occupation. She saw what she admired in the woman. So that's how that's what I was viewing. And a lot of times we can put our own biases on people when their view is completely different from what you're seeing. You know, for some people, they think they might have thought she was ugly just because of her occupation, when the truth of the matter was that wasn't the case. It was that their bias toward what she does made her ugly to them. So
okay. CD Madden.
Yeah, so I agree. From the story that you've given us, it seems as though she saw, from a male's perspective, men were fully attracted to that woman, had the men's attention, and if she was going to go into the music industry, as we know, from the early 70s to mid 70s, to even early 80s, from a male perspective, Dolly Parton was this icon of beauty. So she took those things that she saw that got the attention to get her through those doors. And unfortunately for a lot of us males, we tend to go to what's attracted to us first and then think about the mind later as we get older. So as far as getting the brand to get through the doors for those who were the decision makers, she was doing what she knew was the pathway to get access where some others who did not have that same look wouldn't get.
And I think something that Yolanda said, and you just said the word branding. Branding back then was very different. She had big breasts, but they were covered. When you think in terms of her lyrics, they weren't offensive. They really weren't. And there's that part where she said, "I would like to think I'm more than trash," right? So she evolved. She evolved. When we look at, or we refer to, the performance of Megan Thee Stallion, and I am not attacking Megan at all. I am using this as an example because during her performance, one of the things I did like is she invited her fans on stage like 3 times, and that made people feel included. But what she said is, you gonna come up here, you gonna F it up? Are y'all gonna F it up? And F it up, are you getting ready to twerk and shake your butt and show all of that? And the more raunchy she thought they were going to be, they came on up. And I mean, I saw some things that I don't ever want to remember. And for these young women, they were hugging her and they were excited, like to touch her, right? And they were like, I love you. And she said, and I love you too. But all I remember thinking to myself as I saw these women just young and just, listen, cellulite, all that, booty cheeks in the air. It's like they were humping the stage, but that's what she wanted them to do in order for them to be recognized. And I think that's my point. Does it really take all that? And what is the message? Do you want to be like her? And India Reed took issue with that because she said kids were in the audience. Kids were watching. Their parents, some of their parents got up and walked out. But also, let me say this. If I were to invite C.D. Madden Sr. to speak, I know what he's about. So I've extended that invitation to him. I can't get mad if I know what he's about and I put him on stage. Megan Thee Stallion was invited. We already know what she's about. She even changed the song Simon Says. She said, Simon says, touch your legs. Simon says, touch your knees. Simon says, touch your feet and open up your blah, blah, blah like a freak. So she took that little game that, we used to play when we were kids, and she changed the whole name of the game. There was even a part in her performance where she said, I'm about to get really disrespectful. Right? So on one hand, y'all knew what y'all were doing. But my whole thought of is the ramifications and what are we really, really saying? And feel free to jump into it. Let me do this here. You're watching Dolores Jones, the Comeback Coach, here on my YouTube channel as well as my Facebook channel. I said in my teaser, I want to be a certified freak, which there is a song out there called Certified Freak. Work it on me. I've been, out where they did the line dancing, but truly, I don't want to be a certified freak. I mean, do I even look like that? No. But the whole point here is we can have these play on words, but they're going to leave an impression. And we have little girls out here, black girls, and we say black girls rock. But what are we saying now when we constantly say, this is okay? Yolanda, you have 4 daughters. What are you going to tell them?
Absolutely. So I guess the first thing I would like to address is just the social media aspect of it. These phones and computers are like the forbidden fruit. It's like, don't touch that. Your eyes will be open. You know what I mean? And they are exposed to things that they are not ready mentally to even digest. And then their little spirits and minds and stuff are wrestling with. And then it forces us as adults, and I say adults and not just parents, to address it, because I would hope that as an adult, and I can only say from myself, to be an adult and have children in my presence, whether they're mine or not, I would have to address the situation, because I feel like I have a certain amount of responsibility in that space. However, I also understand that everyone doesn't have the same mindset. They don't feel the same way. So I can only respect, okay, you're not going to say something, but I want you to respect that I'm going to say something. So that's where I am with that part, being in a space with a young person and feeling like they're having exposure to something they shouldn't have exposure to. I'm going to address the issue. Social media is really desensitizing our children to things, like I said before, that are just not appropriate for children to see, but we cannot monitor them all the time. Nowadays you need a tablet or a computer or a website, something just to do homework. And then you have all these pop-ups and things that you, like I said, they can't even control. that come across their screens. So my position is that I'm ever present in my children's lives, and I try to be more present than what they're seeing, and guide them and speak to them about what they're seeing in a very true way. I try not to be sugarcoaty about it and give incorrect names to what things really are. You know, when I speak to them about even just their anatomy, I tell them what the parts are called, because I don't want them to be older and then they're like, well, my wham wham, and the people are like, what are we talking about? You know what I mean? We need to know the
My
proper
wham wham.
language to use. Yeah, we need to know the proper language to use now. And I try to address those things with my children. And like I said, their dad and I, we just try to be very present in their lives. So that way they know they have something solid to refer to. So
Yeah. CD, you are a father, a husband, a community leader, an influencer, and you said 2 daughters?
Yeah, 2 daughters, one 16, one 5.
Oh, wow. So talk to us about this.
Yeah, so it's multiple things. So from the lens of someone that's seen marketing, from a lens of educating, from a lens of father, is 3 different variables. So when it comes to Megan Stallion's portrayal and her presentation, I agree. They knew exactly what they were doing, and they got exactly what they wanted out of it, because one, they can show it or market it as we would get a different type of audience, where that culture or that different demographic of young ladies who may not be as polished had a voice, had a place, and now have a space in the essence. They can switch that and brand that, and that becomes like, that's your section. When it comes to being a father, it is my responsibility to give my oldest daughter, who is Zaya, the information and give it from a man's perspective. So Zaya is very aware of what young boys think and how young boys act. And before she even had a boy that would come over, I don't have to worry about Zaya, because she already has had the expectation. And I started having those conversations at 4, like, and I gave it at chunks. Like, this is the way you respect yourself. And the best way I can do that is model how a woman should be treated, is how I treat her mother. So I can't say that you should be a queen, you should be a princess, and I treat her mother like a dog. I can't say that you should be respected and you should wait for a man. And I remember, even as an educator, I would tell Zaya when she was in middle school, I was like, okay, whenever it's time for you to have your first date, if he makes it to the second date, the first thing you need to ask for is, what's his credit score, what's his 10-year plan, and what's his GPA. And I said it in middle school, because the first date, that person is put on a mask. Every man is going to put on his mask. He's going to put on his representative. Because he's trying to ask those probing questions to see what type of man you like, so that he can be that person on the second date. So now, by the second date, now you ask the questions: what's your credit score? And even if he doesn't know his credit score, if he doesn't know how to explain that, now you set the standard that this is the level. Now, because if you can't explain what a credit score is, if you don't know what I'm talking about, if you don't know what your 5-year goal is, if you don't have a 5-year plan for yourself, you definitely don't have a 5-year plan for me. So how can you protect? Go ahead.
Let me ask this question, because you went deep and you talked about credit scores and what's your future. But let's just be honest, from the initial thing, it's all about attraction, right?
Yeah.
It's all about attraction and how our daughters show up. So we know your lovely wife, Monica. Hello, beautiful queen that she is, dear friend. She reps. She goes higher and higher. Your daughters are extremely blessed because they have both of you all, right? Both of you all. Unfortunately, not everyone is as privy to that, right? And attraction is the first thing. Your daughters show up a certain type of way. Have you ever been challenged, CD, with your daughter saying, I want to wear this? Same thing for you, Yolanda. And it was like a standard. Did you have to check her at the door and say, we don't do that?
Well, with me, I'm blessed to have Monica, and she checks everything. She inspects before she leaves the place. So like, I don't have to worry about that part, because Monica, as you know, has a high standard, And since she's been nicknamed as Montage Your Brand. Zion knows out the gate. No, absolutely not. I think I have more trouble with that engagement with the young ladies that I've mentored or trained in these past 20 years of education. I think that's a different discussion, but I'm going to yield the floor.
Okay, so with my daughters, I've definitely, my husband and I are both in our home as well, but I can attest to being the mom and having to address, but my husband has no problem saying, do you think that's all right? You know, so we definitely have those discussions, and I've had to stop my children and tell them, no, especially when the seasons kind of change, like school is coming back around and they've grown. And so they got their favorite pair of jeans that they had from the year before. And I'm like, those are a little too snug. We're not doing those this year, you know? So there are different things that I'm like, yeah, no, we can't do that. Or I don't like the straps on that shirt. Or our home does not do halters, midriffs. We don't do, my husband doesn't like spaghetti straps. I don't so much mind a spaghetti strap shirt, but he does not. And again, like I said, that makes it room for him to say, well, I don't do spaghetti straps. So
I know what you just said, Yolanda. Mm-hmm. You said we don't do halters, we don't do midriffs, we don't do spaghetti straps. Y'all having that conversation as far as, I don't care what's going on out there. I don't care who's on the stage. I don't even care who's selling millions of records or who's on TV. We don't do that.
We don't do that.
We don't do that.
And you know,
but have you had kickback? Have you had kickback where the child, because I think, CD, you said your daughter's 16 years old?
I have a 16-year-old.
Yeah, she's 16.
Both of you do. And that adolescent stage where they get to talking back to you and they gonna do what they gonna do and sneaking around. Have you come up against that? And if so, how did you check it?
Oh, okay. So yeah, I do have I have a 16-year-old as well. My daughters are 16, 14, and I have a set of twins that are 6. So mine are all across the spectrum. I have one in high school, middle school, and then elementary children. And yes, I have had issues with just talking back, period. You know what I mean? Well, you know, slip lip period, where we've had to check it and come. My husband and I have to get together and build our alliance and be like, wait a minute. And he's had to come out of the other room like, who are you talking to? This is your mother. You know what I mean? And so but as far as clothes are concerned, I've never had an issue with saying, this is what we're not wearing, bring it to me. I go through their clothes every season, and then we just take out whatever is not appropriate anymore. That shirt is rising up a little bit too much, or those jeans are a little too tight, or your legs too long for those shorts. And they bring them to me and we donate them. They got to go to the thrift store. That's just the way we operate. That's the way we operate. So
we need to give them away, baby. Give them away. They're showing too much.
To somebody else that can fit them and wear them well, you know. But
good, I like that.
But I also have to say, because I don't want to be hypocritical. Being a woman, I love sexy clothing. So I do address my children and letting them know what is appropriate for their age group. So for me, when I go out with my husband, I'm gonna be the sexiest woman he see. So that's gonna be it. I'm gonna be the sexiest woman he see in the room. So I do have midriffs and my skirts are a little higher, or I wear the perfume and my hair is up or down, or whatever the case may be. My makeup is right. You know what I mean? And my children see me when I get dressed. The twins call it Fancy Nancy. You getting fancy, mama? Yeah, we getting fancy. And they even do makeup next to me when we're in the bathroom together. And they get dressed and we dress up while I'm getting out.
Have they heard of what Beyoncé calls the freakum dress? Now they said fancy, but Beyonce would probably call it a freakum dress. So y'all don't even use that language around your kids.
No, we don't use
no
that.
Freakum dress.
We call it getting fancy. Yeah, that's why they use Nancy, because they know they're the kids' age. Our children, our twins, are not allowed to be on our phones, and they just got tablets this past this past Christmas this past birthday, because my mom bought them for them, and they have a limited time on their tablets, because we just try to limit their screen time. Like I said, be present with our children, So like I said, I don't want to be hypocritical. My children see me when I'm sexy, but not trashy, because I feel like there's a very thin line between trashy and sexy. I feel like you can play up your assets, like you were saying about Dolly Parton. You can definitely play up your assets without showing them and revealing them all. You know what I mean? I should be able to stand in the presence of another man and be okay while my husband is there and still be sexy. You see what I'm saying? Where I'm not distracting and both butt cheeks are out and I got a thong going up the middle and all of that stuff. I mean, to each his own. I'm not gonna disrespect the sister. I'm gonna let her do her thing. You know what I mean? I'm not gonna address her or anything, but this is my preference. This is how I'm raising my children. This is what I feel like is appropriate. So
all right. C.D. Madden Sr.
Yeah, so I don't think we have problems with dress. I think Dia's still in that stage where she's 16, but she's still very scared of her mother. I think one of the things that we are monitoring anything is more so of like the music and then getting the balance. So I want you to be aware that this music is out there, because I don't want you to be cool. I don't want you to be a victim, but I want you to know that there's always got to be a balance. So you can know that music is out there, but
hold on. Let's mute ourselves if we're not speaking. That way, we'll see if it cuts down on that interference. So go ahead, C.D. Madden.
Yeah, so it's like this. Back when I was an educator, I was telling students way back in the day, I understand that you knew who Nicki Minaj is, but you need to know who Nikki Giovanni is as well. You got to know the balance. And so therefore, know that the music's out there, know what the lyrics are saying, but you got to know how men are going to see this. Because if you present yourself in a certain way, they're going to act a certain way. And because that's how you marketed or branded yourself. So I think, like I said, the biggest push or the biggest frustration has been mentoring the young ladies. And I've seen the progression of how much push we have to do, not only with the students, but now more so for the parents, because the parents are younger. The parents are different. So back in the day when I first started teaching, there was a partnership with the parents. They understood it. We could talk about it. But now these parents that's coming in schools, they were my former students. And so now I have to teach them stuff that they didn't learn back in the day. And so here's a perfect example. We had uniform policy, and one of the young 8th grade girl produced and developed faster than an 8th grade girl. And so she was trying to date a high school boy, and I was writing her up for a uniform violation. The dad understood it. Dad got it. I appreciate you, Mr. Madden. Hold the standard up. Got you. Let me know if she ever tries that. Mom and I went back and forth saying she's just expressing herself. If she wants to wear a halter top, if she wants to show her stomach, I don't see nothing wrong. And so we had to have a courageous conversation about, hey, she can wear whatever she wants to wear in your house. But as long as I'm the assistant principal, I'm going to hold a standard. And because I'm accountable for the safety of your child while she's with me. So because she's in the safety of my care while she's with me, I'm going to treat her like I'm going to treat my daughter. So I'm going to hold up the highest standard for her, because until she gets back to your house, she belongs to me, and I'm accountable for her safety, both mentally, emotionally, and psychologically.
Wow. I want to applaud you for that. And it was interesting as you were sharing the dynamic. You and the father were like, cool. But the mom was, as you said, expressing herself. And we're going to get into that. But before we do, I just want to let you all know you're watching Dolores Jones, the Comeback Coach, here on my Facebook page and Dolores Jones TV. The topic today, I want to be like her, trash, or in other words, the certified freak. Okay. The whole thought of this is Dolly Parton talked about how she basically emulated the town tramp, but she didn't know, she just saw the beauty. She saw that she wanted to be seen. And I believe that is the point of this. Just because people want to be seen, does that mean we lower our standards? And I would happen to say no. Now, one of the things I did notice is both of you all have children and you have a 2-parent home. I didn't come from a 2-parent home, but I was raised by an educator. My mom passed when I was 5. But even in that, she was a beautiful woman. Education was significant. The reason I dressed the way that I dress is I saw my grandmother do this. She was a teacher. She kept it 100. And even if we were struggling, you still looked like you had good sense, like you were showing up about business. It's like someone said, are you a prospect or a suspect? Because that even goes to our young men, how you show up. If I came on this interview today and I had my girls out doing my thing, I guarantee you somebody would be in the comment section, and you all can't see in your comments, saying, no, she didn't, blah, 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 because we are prone to criticize. But I think the key thing is you talked about standards. Let's talk about a little bit of expressing ourselves as women, Yolanda. Jill Scott, has a song out there, and she said, I'm living my life like it's golden. And there's a part where she says, I'm representing his glory. Hope he's proud of me. Either one of you can jump into this. Do you think probably there's a disconnect of somebody feeling like, Mama, are you proud of me? Versus, do you just see me? I thought about Megan Thee Stallion as she was performing, and baby, woo! And I did think about her mother. I wondered, is her mother proud of her? She's representing. Most people would say, when you leave this house, you represent the Madden household. You represent the Jones household. My son, that's my only one. And my son is a part of the LGBTQ community. But even in that, we had that conversation. I said, when you walk out the door, you know who you are. He is also what they call a female impersonator. And he's an award-winning female impersonator. However, if you were to see my son on the street, you're going to see a man. That's what you're going to see. You're going to see a man who's dressed, who is proper, who has good sense. And I said, don't wear the anger on your shoulder. You are not the poster boy for gay America, right? No, I don't. He's a mom. You don't know what it's like to be a gay black man in America. I don't. But I know what it's like to have standards. I know what it's like to be respectful. I know what it's like to show up and open your mouth like you got good sense. I know what it's like to present yourself very well. And I'm happy to say that crossed over to him. He's 25 years old now. But I constantly remind him, I'm proud of you. So I'm wondering, is it they need to know that we're proud of them? What are your thoughts about that? Because they're representing something. Yolanda?
Yeah, so thank you. So I think it's both and. I don't think it's either or. I think it's both and. I think there's a part of them that wants to make sure that the person that they look up to is proud of them. But there's also the point of the attention. And unfortunately, what we see in education and what we see in families sometimes is that young people or young adults or even adults are going to go towards whatever gets them the most attention. So if I'm displaying an action and I'm ignored for that action, but it seems like if every time I go outside or I'm outside or I act bad, I'm getting more attention, that I'm classically conditioned now to get what I need. And sometimes, unfortunately, for us as men, from man's perspective, we are now putting more energy or more attention to those who act or look a certain way. And so now it's more so of like, okay, if this person is getting all the attention and I want the attention, then I got to play the best role I can towards that to get what I need. And so on one hand, yes, I want somebody to be proud of me. Yes, I want someone I look up to that I admire to speak well over my life. But also, there's things about me that I need attention for. And if I'm going to get more attention over here, then I'm going to do what I got to do.
Excellent point. That's when Megan brought the girls up, the women, and it was a lot of them. It was a lot of them. No judgment. I'm just saying what you just said. If I'm going to get the attention, then I'm gonna bring it. And she said, "You gonna F it up on the stage?" And they went up there. Yolanda, what were you gonna say?
You're muted.
You're muted.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I try to break it down and use analogies that my children can understand, and it will translate on their level. And I tell them things like, it's like driving a car. You have to be driving not only for yourself, but you have to be paying attention to all the people around you, because if you're only driving for yourself and you have tunnel vision thinking about where I got to go and how fast I got to get there, and I got time, I don't have time to be messing with these people, you miss the cues of other people around you, which will allow you to react, accordingly. And you can't walk out of the house thinking about only you. And this is how I view myself, and I feel like other adults, entertainers, should view themselves as well. But even in that, you have free will. And so these people have their free will, and they do with it what they want. So on the same token, I have to tell my children, everybody's not getting the same teaching and training at home. So you also have to look past the specifics of people, like, oh, this person is acting ratchet, or this person did this, or this person did that. And for yourself, you must be more general. So I treat them like they're human. I make sure that I have the thought in mind that their ways are not mine. I don't think they haven't been raised like I've been raised. All of us have different backgrounds. All of us, the bottom line is just respect. You decide to be and do with whoever you want to be and do, and I'll respect that, as long as you're not forcing it off on me and it's not affecting me and my person in any way, or the people that I love. And then I'll be the same. I'm not going to try to force my person and opinion and who I am and choose to be on you. So I tell my daughters, who do you want to represent when you go out? What do you want to be? Who do you want people to see? So yes, I do get to be proud of you, but ultimately you have to live with the person you're willing to be, who you're going to show up and be in the world. I mean, because what you choose to be, you will get back. Okay, so that means that people get to have their free will to shape their own opinions about you because of the way you show up. They get to treat you the way they feel deemed necessary to treat you with their free will because of the way you showed up. Because we will fall in line. We'll fall in line.
Yeah.
If you're the type of person that you're not going to tolerate this, that, or the other, people can read. They will know. Yeah. So
go ahead and mute your mic, because we keep, I think it's feeding off of each other. But Yolanda, there was something you just said. You get back what you put out there, right? So you're going to get back what you put out there. Now Netflix has a new movie out, so we're going to kind of shift it. I don't know whose mic that is, but if you could just please mute everything.
It is. That's why I keep muting.
Okay. So thank you. So the new movie out, Netflix, called The Clone. They cloned Tyrone or something like that. I saw some of this. There's a guy named, I think, Jazz Brewer, and someone posted his comment, and they were saying people were missing the point of The Clone. I haven't seen it yet, but there was something that he said that I wanted to quote. And he said, "You're just carbon copies of the same stereotypes placed in neighborhoods all across the country." I was like, whoa, carbon copies of stereotypes. I'm thinking about our young ladies. Are we becoming carbon copies of the stereotypes that we hate? We talk a lot about African American women, Black women being represented as hypersexual in media. But are we contributing to our own problem because we're carbon copies of the same stereotype? And he even went on to talk about, and we destroy our own living conditions, quote, for little to no real financial gain and at the expense of your own family due to the lack of self-esteem and knowledge of self. Right there. When I look at some of the female artists, and we can't exclude our men because the men are saying these things, and I think for me, when I was watching and listening to Megan Thee Stallion, she was basically in this fight with you want me to do this, but I'm gonna tell you to do this, and she's going back and forth with them, right? She's basically saying, okay, y'all want to get nasty? Well, I'm a woman. I'm gonna step up and I'm gonna get nasty and I'm gonna get real raunchy, like, oh my God, right? So then you go, who's the lady here? Where's the lady? Carbon copies. Are we hurting ourselves? Because here's the thing. I live in my own place. People treat me the way I show up. But at the same time, and I know this from walking in the schools and being an English teacher, my heart is broken when I watched and saw daily the images that I saw these young girls and the conversations coming out of their mouths. But if we're spending the money, and like Megan said, and like I said, I'm not on her. It's just happens to be one of the people that's visual out here, and she's talking about the money. She's like, B, hurt on me, but I'm gonna still get paid, and he gonna come back to me. And I'm like, you know what? As a social worker, psychotherapist, if you sit her in the chair, I can't say she doesn't have a right to feel the way she feels, because we all been hurt. But here's the other thing. Like I told some of the kids when they wanted to fight, I said, if you want to fight, go get in the boxing ring and make your money. So on one hand, she's making the money, but at the expense of what? I mean, where do we draw the line? Where do we draw the line and say, you know what? I know you famous. I know you got skills, but you're representing a culture of people. We had to fight to be seen and respected. And now what you're doing is you want to be heard, but at what expense? Go ahead and chime in.
Yeah. So, yes, the short answer is yes, we are failing to the point where the machine of entertainment, whether it be music or movies, is only going to feed what we consume. And first, if you have not seen the movie, it's an excellent movie. And that was the exact point, that there is a machine that is making us carbon copies of the same thing for the purpose of fueling that narrative. And so it is our responsibility, and I can only speak for a man, it's our responsibility as grown men to model what a man should look like and how we engage with those conversations. And then also, if there are young ladies who are watching us, especially in the classroom or in the community, we have to take advantage of those times when we have influence to teach them what it really means and how it really affects you in the long run. But then also, it's our job as consumers to put more effort and more finances into the things that bring us in a positive light. So if we talk about Megan Thee Stallion, when there was an interview for Cardi B said, listen, you think I want to rap like this? There are a lot of women who are dope MCs, great rappers who are female, and y'all don't promote them. Y'all don't buy their music. Now you can't say, well, the industry is not pushing them. No, they're on SoundCloud just like I am. We are only getting what we put out. So the challenge for us, for those who are in the smaller communities or in Kansas City, we have to do what we can with the groups that we have. And it becomes a snowball effect because this has been going on for decades and decades. The best thing we can do is grab our young ladies and even our young men and have intentional conversations. Here's my one example, and I'm gonna yield the floor. I think maybe 10 years ago, when I was a band director, I created an experiment that prompted a relationship series called Get the Clue He Don't Want You. And so the experiment with the middle school girls, I said, hey, you have 6th grade, 7th grade, and 8th grade. If all the 8th grade girls said no boy is going to get any one of our numbers, we're not going to talk to you, we're not going to date you, we're not going to Snapchat or whatever unless you have a 3.9 GPA, and y'all all hold true to it, then now they have to make a decision. Either they get their grade up or now they're forced to date a 7th grade girl. But if the 7th grade girls and 8th grade girls band together and say, hey, 3.9 GPA, we're not moving. Now the 8th grade boys are competing with the 7th grade boys, and they either rise or they now got to go to the 6th grade girls. But if the whole middle school holds that, now it's a collective standard. So I think the best thing is for us to be unified in what message we want to invest in, what shows, what movies, what music we want to promote, and stand on that to show that we're not moving, and we're going to take our collective funds and our perspectives, our views to invest in the things we say we want to see moving forward.
CD Madden, do you think it's too late for us to have a collective standard?
Absolutely not. Because at the end of the day, it's all an investment. The reason why we do have Black women who are educators and CEOs and executives, because even though there was things that was happening in the community years ago, it was an investment. And what we're doing now is investing. So there are the proof of that is there are young ladies who are now grown, who are now mothers, who are respecting their child and teaching their children. And they come and tell me, sometimes I don't even know who they are. They tell me that I was their teacher and I was their first example of a respectful man. So that's the reason why in 20 years, you see me wear a suit, even if I don't have to, because I want to create a narrative that, yes, you're going to have other people. And that doesn't mean just because I'm in a suit, I'm the epitome of men, but I want to give you perspective of what it could be and make that investment.
Perspective. That perspective is so key. When we think in terms of, I think they keep saying hip hop 50. So there's 50 years of hip hop. And that's part of the reason you had Megan as one of the headliners, from what I understand. You also had Janelle Monáe. People took issue where at some point in a performance, she pulled her bra up and she had a pasty on her breast. I didn't see that. I didn't even get into that. But, just standards. But what was interesting as I also watched BET Awards and Busta Rhymes. Let's put Busta Rhymes out there. Busta Rhymes, I have mad respect for him. I didn't know he did so many great things. But the interesting thing is, as we were watching this, you notice he talked about the narrative. He talked about, we don't have to do this to each other. He talked about that. And as I was sitting there, my grandmother said, yeah, I like Busta Rhymes. I was like, Mama, you know Busta Rhymes? Like, you know Busta Rhymes? I was shocked. But this is a woman of standards. And I was like, what do you like about it? And she said, well, listen to what he's saying. Also, how he showed up. If you look, he's always dressed to a T. His sons were dressed like that, right? All in what you talked about, a collective standard. Now, we are talking about a collective standard in our homes. And I really hope that it's not too late for a collective standard in our community. I'm Dolores Jones, the comeback coach. I have two special guests with me. We're doing something that I've been wanting to do for a long time. I finally got a topic that I thought was warranted me doing this. And we're talking about, I want to be like her, the standard. What is the standard of womanhood? And as the young man said, Jazz Brewer in The Clone, the machine, we're allowing the machine to come in and redefine what it means to be a man, what it means to be a woman. Yolanda Taylor is also on the panel, and each of these phenomenal people have children. And you all, let me celebrate you. You've done an amazing job as a team. And here's something I'm going to do. I'm going to pat my own self on my back because I know I've done a hell of a job as a single mother. And I think we need to take time to see where we're shining. Now, I'm not perfect. Nobody's perfect, right? I've been divorced, and I tell people, I can tell you what not to do. I definitely can tell you what not to do. But even in that, I can tell you how to bounce back better and not be bitter. But even in doing that, let me say this. I'm going to go there because I want to be like her. I've spent a lot of my life in church. I'm going to just be honest. And in a Pentecostal. church for that matter. And I was a minister's wife. That's not what I signed up for. It's a whole lot of foolishness that led to that. But I had to fight, and it was crazy because I was attacked. First, I was attacked because I had fuchsia lipstick on. Next thing you know, I was attacked because I had big breasts and cleavage. And I'm like, why are y'all watching me so much like that? I mean, I had to fight. 33 years in the same church. And at one point, I had to step away. I had to step away because I was dying. I was becoming bitter and I was becoming angry. And guess what? I wasn't living my life like I was golden because there were unrealistic standards. If you want to be in the choir, you got to do this. And if you don't do this, and then behind closed doors, people was living all kind of hellish. And I was in an abusive marriage. So come on, somebody, and talk to me about that. We're going to talk about standards, right? And no accountability in those places where we're supposed to learn about how do you value yourself. And so I have to say, I thank God for his grace that I was able to rediscover, right? Rebuild. I'm going to share this because it talks about I want to be like that woman, right? I want to be like her. While I was married, I was rather insecure and I had a complex because I was homeless and I didn't smell well. And I trusted that my husband had my best interest at heart. And I was a journalism major, so I had all these beautiful clothes. And when I decided to marry a man who was much older than me, because I love Jesus, I thought he loved Jesus, hallelujah. But no, that's not all going to keep you together, right? And he convinced me that my clothes didn't smell well. Now, you have to understand my clothes, I was young, 11 years, 12 years younger than him. So I wasn't wearing stuff down to my ankles. I wasn't a Pentecostal person. I didn't know about Vaseline and dark stockings. You know, I was out there shining bright like a diamond. But when I got with this man, he played on that. And he told me my clothes didn't smell good. So we gathered up all of my clothing and we took them to the cleaners. And when we got them back, I was excited because I could still be Dolores Jones, the reporter, you know. And he looked at me and he said, no. And I said, what do you mean no? He said, they don't smell good. And I get a little emotional when I think about this. And I said, well, what are we going to do? And he said, we're going to gather all your clothes and we're going to throw them in the dumpster. We're going to throw them away. Listen, y'all. I didn't want to be that woman. I allowed this man, because of my limited understanding or my own vulnerability, my trauma, I helped him gather clothes and throw them in the trash. And we went shopping and everything he wanted to approve of was down to the ground. And I lived like that for almost 7 years of my life. So I understand what it means to want to show up and be free. But I also understand that you can have a standard. So I'm not sitting here, you know, behind a door saying, oh, don't do that. No, baby, I've been through it. I've been through it. But I will say this. It's like Marianne Williamson said. She said, who are you not to be? And your willingness to show up gives people permission to do the same thing. The question, though, is we have all of these wonderful artists and all these powerful women. And we are giving each other permission to show up. But when we give them permission to show up, how much, you know, should we, I don't want to say tolerate, because I just gave you an example of what happened to me. That still hurts me to my heart. I lost myself. I lost my clothes. I was in an abusive marriage. I was in a church. And I had to say to myself, it's okay to be beautiful, Dolores. I didn't want to be like Sister So-and-so sitting on the front row because she was a hellraiser and her titties weren't showing. And let me get off my soapbox, because I think sometimes when I've met young women, and like you said, CD, you said that, who was that? Who said she didn't want to rap like that because people weren't buying it? I think that sometimes we can damage people so much that they run far away from what was considered an excellent standard. because they don't want any of that because of the way you're delivering it, and you're breaking me and you're hurting me. And I just want to be me. I just want to be me. In the words of India Arie, her video, she says, am I less of a woman if I don't wear pantyhose? She said, my mama said a woman isn't what she wears, it's what she knows. You understand what I'm saying? We have about 5 more minutes left. I became very attached to this. I mean, and like I said, when I started with this topic, I shared and I kept reiterating, this isn't about judgment. This is about creating an understanding. And sometimes we are showing up out of pain because there's a disconnect. Yolanda, I'm gonna throw it to you. Then I'm gonna throw it to CD Madden, and then we'll just take it on home. And if we have to do a part 2 because people really want it, then we'll come back and do it. I'm gonna mute my mic.
I was curious to see what the questions were that were coming in. However, I'll just go ahead and say this. I would challenge the people around me, and even the people who are with platforms like yourself that can touch other people. I would challenge them to encourage others to be more careful with our girls, to just be mindful, come from a respect for place with them. The things that we're putting out in content, the things that we're saying, because there was a time when the standard was different, in the 50s, and then in the 60s, and then in the 70s, and it just progressed, and it got, progressively worse, but our next generation, there's no telling what's going to be normal, so I mean, I would just challenge the people in my community, in my section, in my circle, and even the young girls that are coming and engaging with my daughters, and they come over and visit my home and things. I deal with them with kid hands, but I make sure that I'm very clear in my delivery about where we're standing with, baby, you going to the mall with me? You can't go to the mall with me with them shorts, so I just, it's tender, but it's clear. So yeah, I would just encourage the people around us to be a little more careful with our babies.
Yeah, so I agree. Now more than ever, and I know we don't have enough time to go down the rabbit hole about church and how that played into a part with that. Because one quick spiritual analogy, I think where we failed as church people or Christians or ministry leaders is that we're more focused on membership than discipleship, and so therefore we drive that and become more parasites than preachers. But that's a different story for a different podcast. But when it comes to our girls, now more than ever, I believe we have a lot of people that are invested in making sure our young girls are protected. I believe that there are people who are doing an excellent job in trying to create stories, opportunities, and spaces. I think it's not going to be fixed overnight, but we can do exactly what we do by investing in them, mentoring people who we can, being in the example, and being consistent with that example. Because when we are inconsistent, we allow these young ladies to go to examples that are consistent. So if there's more consistent narratives about people who say that they're going to act bad, who say they're going to be outside, and they're consistent with it, then they're going to say, well, at least they're who they say they are, versus I want you to be holy, I want you to be righteous, but then you got 3 hidden Snapchat accounts, but that's a different story. So I think we need to be more consistent and be careful, because now more than ever, especially in Kansas City, shameless plug, I say this all the time, Kansas City is still number 1 for human trafficking. Still, nationally, the number 1 city in human trafficking because of I-70-35. So if we don't take care of our daughters, somebody will.
Once again, I want to thank my 2 panelists, CD Madden Sr. and Yolanda Taylor, you beautiful people. I think if I were to close it out, I would say this, using the words of Jazz Brewer. Guess what? We don't have to be carbon copies of anyone. We can be originals, and we can have standards, and we can learn to love, and we can learn to listen, to understand where the person is coming from. Love, 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 love. is definitely going to be the key. Learning to love oneself, learning to appreciate somebody else's struggle, and being open. Thank you all for watching. I'm Dolores Jones, the comeback coach. I know that you can bounce back better and not bitter through life experiences and bad decisions. Choose you. Decide how you're going to value yourself and how you're going to manifest that on a daily basis. Carl Jung said, "You are not what happened to you. You are who you choose to become." You become the leader. You become the star. You become the representative that we are proud of. And let me say this, living is not easy. So I am proud of you that you're still fighting and you're still trying to find your way. There is a spot for you. You are an original, wonderfully made human being with contributions to be made. Join me next time. Like and share the video. I know my panelists will be back with me again. I appreciate you. Thank you for your time. You all have an amazing day. Go be great, because you are.